Hello, I'm Peter Utting. Until 2014, I coordinated the UNRISD research program on the potential and limits of social and solidarity economy. Today, I want to sum up in 3 messages some of the key points that are in the chapter on social and solidarity economy in the UNRISD flagship report, Innovations for Transformative Change. But first, let's clarify what social and solidarity economy, or what for shorthand we'll call SSE, is, and why we think it's important as an innovative approach to inclusive and sustainable development. A common definition refers to SSE as the production of goods and services by organizations and enterprises that have explicit social and often environmental objectives and which are guided by principles and practices of cooperation, solidarity, equity, and democratic self-management. So typical examples of SSE organizations and enterprises include cooperatives and mutual associations, various types of social enterprises, women's self-help groups, fair trade networks, and community savings and loan groups. The first message relates to why all this is important. First, as you can see, this approach contrasts sharply with that of conventional private enterprise and finance, which doesn't focus directly on sustainable development objectives, but on profit maximization, partly through what economists call negative externalities associated with environmental degradation and poor working conditions. SSE then provides a very useful window for thinking about alternative forms of economy. Second, this sort of collective action involving people coming together to achieve something is key for empowering disadvantaged groups both economically and politically. Small producers can often be far more effective in mobilizing and accessing resources when they associate rather than going it alone. And third, if the transformative vision of the UN Sustainable Development Goals is to be realized, we need to look at alternatives that already exist and which can be scaled up or enabled through support from policymakers. The second message is that an increasing number of governments are enacting laws, designing policies, implementing national and regional development programs, and creating new institutions to support SSE. The chapter looks at what many governments and parliaments, particularly in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, are doing in this regard. In numerous regions and countries, such as South Korea, in the state of Kerala in India, in Costa Rica, Rwanda, Kenya, Nicaragua, and Brazil, we see significant gains. The third message is that we need to be on the lookout for various problems that can arise when governments get involved. For example, top-down policy design and implementation that lacks the effective participation of SSE stakeholders, excessive dependency of SSE organizations on the state, which can stifle their autonomy and capacity for innovation, or contradictory policies, what we call policy incoherence, when some policies may support SSE, but others may weaken it, as in the case, for example, of certain free trade agreements that often make it difficult for small farmers to compete with cheap food imports. So we are careful not to romanticize SSE and government involvement, but clearly we think much can be done through public policy to ensure that SSE constitutes an important means of implementation for the Sustainable Development Goals. Thanks very much for listening. Let me invite you to read the chapter via the link below, and for more information on UNRISD, why not subscribe to the UNRISD YouTube channel.